The watch industry exploded back to life this week with new releases all over the spectrum, including the very high-end limited edition new Universal Geneve Compax revivals, to the mid-tier Christopher Ward Jump Hour and new OMEGA Speedmaster, all the way down to the more attainable PRX, finally in a 38mm case diameter. So sit back and relax as I break down news from just this past week in the watch industry while putting my own weird little twist on things, because this is time well spent. Tissot finally relented, giving the enthusiast community what we've been begging for since the PRX took the world by storm all the way back in 2021, a 38mm case diameter. The new Goldilocks case sits between the larger 40mm case diameter and the smaller yet faithful 35mm case diameter, with a new mass-appealing 38mm case diameter that will wear slightly larger due to the case geometry. Tissot, however, did not just introduce this new size with a steel case and a black dial like so many other brands might. No, instead they dropped the model in 3 different variations: a titanium case variation with a blue dial, a titanium case with a gray dial, and a version with a striking Damascus steel case and a dial that even carries over to the buckle. The titanium version comes in at $975, just $25 more than the PVD-coated 40mm versions, or $125 more than the steel, which, given the material change for the entire construction, feels like a fair jump up. Even more surprising to me, though, is the $1,175 price point of the Damascus version, which again is only $25 more than the carbon forged edition. Being Damascus steel too, each model will look slightly different as the metal grain pattern will shift slightly, making each piece unique. Now, no doubt we'll see new dial color options and case materials in the near future, but for now you have 3 great everyday dress options. Now, I'm not quite sure how, but Christopher Ward continues to move at a lightning pace, dropping yet another new release with the C1 Jump Hour. There's an interesting story here with the movement. The JJ01, originally built back in 2015 for the Fears X Christopher Ward Alliance 1, before making its way into the C1 Grand Malvern, ultimately leaving the Christopher Ward collection until now. This new take on the Jump Hour not only brings the movement back into the collection, but it puts a twist on it with a focus on dimensionality, sportiness, and lume. The 39mm light catcher case paired with the box sapphire crystal manages to stick to 14mm in thickness despite the moduled movement and 4-layer dial construction. It creates quite a bit of visual depth and interest as the sapphire minute hand sweeps over the ridged rings, eventually passing over the portal as the hour makes its jump. In low light, the lume disc beneath shines through, illuminating the minute track and the hour marker completely, with the central portion of the minute hand also coming to life. And for just under $3,200, it's a very competitive piece and a lot of fun to look at, though my one criticism would be that the sportiness of the case and the bracelet and the dressiness of the dial and that box sapphire crystal does create some visual juxtaposition that might throw you off slightly. Continuing with that dripping faucet approach, Universal Geneve is following up the trio of Pulverture tribute watches with 6 new tribute Compax chronographs. There are 6 new watches divided into groups of 3 with this new set, each the same faithful recreation of the original case shape with approximate dimensions measuring 36mm in diameter and 12.67mm thick. However, these new versions come in either 18-karat white or rose gold with a fixed aluminum bezel and those elegant twisted lyre lugs. From there, though, things start to evolve as the enamel dials begin traditional and then start to stray away from their originals quite a bit. Then, Universal Geneve did the most interesting thing by slapping in a refurbished and restored Universal Caliber 281 inside, which brings a level of romance to the piece, but by modern times is certainly under-specced. And then finally, each watch is paired with a leather bun strap, completing the vintage look. Now, you do have to register your interest to purchase one of these limited 135,000 Swiss francs watches, but they will be donating proceeds to the Geneva School of Watchmaking to fund apprenticeships. And while it is great to see Universal Geneve making its comeback since Breitling acquired them not too long ago, I don't think I'm alone in the enthusiast community by wishing we had seen more at this point. Omega is getting into the Olympic spirit by dropping their first winter-themed watch as a countdown to the World Games as the official timekeeper of the Olympics. Omega has a long and storied connection with the Olympics, not as a sponsor, but as the official timekeeper, actually advancing timekeeping technology and improving scorekeeping with incredible horological and technological advancements. As such, Omega also is able to celebrate the true partnership with commemorative watches for each games, giving us some pretty excellent looking limited edition watches across many of its different collections with special colorways, metals, and even whole design languages. This Winter Olympics is no different, as we have now seen the first celebration piece leading into the Milano Cortina 2026, the Speedmaster 38mm. The 38mm by 14.75 thick case sports 100 meters of water resistance while tweaking the design language of the Speedy with a blue ceramic bezel insert and white enamel inlay. The The dial then casts hues of a frozen mountain with frosted blues that transition onto the really interesting ombre chronograph hand. In the date window, they've also revealed that the 26 is done in the same font as the Olympic game text. Finally, the commemorative case bag features the games and the year called out above the Olympic rings, protecting the automatic COS caliber 3,330 inside. The non-limited special edition will set you back $6,800, which sure is on the pricier side, but is in line with everything else that we're seeing on the market. And I for one actually really like the design language of this piece, despite typically not liking commemorative watches. And that chronograph hand, I want that on more watches. Grand Seiko elevated one of its most popular models with 2 new dressy dial alternates. Built on the success of the gorgeous SBGM221 GMT, with its blue GMT hand cutting against the soft cream dial, a watch that leapt into the mainstream as people thought they spotted it on the wrist of Shohei Ohtani, a bit of false watch spotting there, but as people took notice, the watch really latched on as it offered excellent finishing, an elegant travel dress watch, and a relatively attainable price point in the Grand Seiko collection. I myself even fell in love with the piece after spending quite a bit of time with it on wrist. So as a follow-up, Grand Seiko released this pair of new dial configurations for the dressy GMT, the white dial SBGM255 and the blue dial SBGM257. Both preserve the 39.5mm polished case and automatic 9S66 GMT caliber from before, but punches up the dial detail with a new pattern and 2 colors that, you guessed it, are inspired by the seasons. The primary surface now holds the geometrically tangled spiral pattern interrupted with the PM hour ring resting just beyond the GMT hand before the pattern continues again. We also have a difference in coloration of the GMT hand, complemented by the pairing of the GMT hour markers, but otherwise the pieces remain similar, down to the price of $5,400, the same as the SBGM 221. All in, I think these are fantastic dial updates that add a little bit of complication to the design, and if you don't want that, you still have the fantastically simple original. A brand you might not be familiar with unless you've spent some time digging through the forums, Dryden has released a very interesting new field watch, the Heartlander Solar. This new field watch, launching soon, came out of nowhere and has completely won me over. Let me just run you through the specs here very quickly. 38mm in diameter with a thickness of just 10.8mm and a lug-to-lug of 46 with 100 meters of water resistance. Mass appealing dimensions? Check. A flat sapphire crystal with an inner anti-reflective coating to cut down on glare but it won't get scratched in the field? Practical? Check. It's powered by the Japanese Epson VS42 solar-powered movement, meaning that it will be accurate to roughly plus or minus 20 seconds per month, and when fully charged will run for 6 months with a low power indicator, so it's a bit of no-fuss reliability. Check. The dial features a clean and simple field watch layout with a date window and Swiss Superluminova BGW9 Grade A lume, so it will also read well by day and night. Check. All of this, and assembled in the USA if that matters to you, for a price point of $275 on a rubber strap or $375 on a bracelet, which in my mind is a no-brainer smash hit from a brand that if you're not paying attention to, I really hope you are now. French watch brand Jacques Bianchi has teamed up with US Navy diver Brock Stevens to co-design a version of their JB300 technical dive watch named the JB300 Profonde X Deepsea.edc. Launching and almost immediately selling out, this unique dive watch draws on Brock's real-world experience to inform the design language that sets it apart from others on the market. Most obviously, we have a destro orientation, meaning that the crown is on the left-hand side. Now this typically means that it's to be worn on the right wrist, however Brock keeps it on his left wrist, keeping the crown simply out of the way for better wrist articulation. The case is tumbled grade 5 titanium with a very raw look like that of weathered lead, complementing the highly legible black, white, and Deepsea.edc yellow design language beneath. Every aspect here has been designed for rugged use, from the extra crown protection to the aggressive ridging on the bezel and mixed color well-emitting lume underneath. At roughly $1,300 and only 150 individually numbered pieces, it's easy to see why so many leapt at the chance to grab this watch, and even more so to support Brock, who is well known and respected in the enthusiast community. But given its success, especially on his very first debut model, it begs the question, what's next? And while those are the main stories I really wanted to dig into this week, so many others hit the headlines that I really just want to dive into a few very quickly. Vaer Watches, Topo Designs, and Worn & Wound teamed up in a triple brand collaboration to drop the Solar Hiker watch, a kit including a solar-powered field watch, a Vaer silicone strap, and 2 Topo Designs nylon straps, and a Topo Designs EDC carry case. Now the whole thing retails for $349 and offers mass-appealing dimensions with capable specifications, a solar-powered movement, a split-time bezel, and a highly legible design. JLC unveiled yet another highly complicated Reverso with the Reverso Hybris Artisica caliber 179, a flying gyro tourbillon designed with a focus on geometric expression. Each plate and bridge is hand lacquered by only 3 craftsmen. It is a showpiece crafted for the sake of horological art. Atelier Wen debuted the Inflection, a full tantalum-constructed integrated sports watch designed with a Grand Fou enamel dial and customized Girard-Perregaux movement for just under $30,000. I had a chance to handle this piece, and the weight alone just makes it feel special before you start digging into the rarity of the metal and the difficulty of it to work on. It is a huge swing from the small company and a statement about their future intentions that I'm excited to see them follow up on. Hanhart gave us a new 417 ES Flyback Mocha edition, but this one's a little bit different. It's a brown dial chronograph that normally I wouldn't talk about, except for the fact that this one has a smooth bezel. Perhaps its most iconic model. We are used to seeing the 417 sporting the iconic coin edge bezel with the red indicator. However, this model swaps that for a simple polished bezel for a cleaner look and softened appearance. Now, it's no surprise that enthusiasts seem to be a bit divided on this. However, being that it is only 200 pieces for the limited edition, I think it's okay to let them experiment here. Studio Underdog just continues to feast, this time in collaboration with Messena Labs for a champagne and caviar inspired chronograph. This version leans into a more spec'd up version than their standard chronograph, featuring a higher grade mono pusher movement and coming in at $2,200 for a limited edition of just 200 pieces. And while I typically really like what Studio Underdog puts out, there is something about that bubbling caviar sub-register that just makes me a little bit uneasy about this one. And I will of course have links to everything that we just talked about in that description down below, so if you want a deeper dive on any of those topics, please head on down there. Tune in next week as we have quite a few new fun watches coming out and some new events that we're going to be talking about that I can't quite talk about yet, but I am very excited to share with all of you. If you do want to keep up with any of those in real time, please follow me on Instagram, as I do tend to post those in the moment and would love to connect with all of you. But with all of that being said, I know your time is very valuable and I do appreciate you spending some of it with me. I will be back next week with another collection of stories, and as always, thank you for being here.